Welcome to Even Tacos Fall Apart, the podcast that courageously delves into the journey of healing, resilience, and the profound impact that mental illness can have on our lives and the lives of those around us. I'm MommaFoxFire, and in today's episode, we have an enlightening and compassionate conversation with the absolutely remarkable Heather Schulien. Heather is a dedicated advocate for survivors of childhood abuse and an expert in supporting individuals on their path to healing. Join us as we explore the complex emotional struggles that persist into adulthood for those who have endured such traumatic experiences. In this powerful episode, we delve into the lingering effects of childhood abuse that continue to impact survivors well into their adult lives. Heather will shed light on how trauma experienced in childhood can reshape the brain's development and influence emotional responses. We also discuss the differences between complex PTSD or CPTSD and PTSD, and how therapeutic approaches can be tailored to address the unique challenges faced by survivors of childhood abuse. Our conversation also examines the patterns of re-victimization that adults who were victimized as children may experience later in life, and the importance of understanding and confronting their past in the healing process. As we explore the journey of healing, Heather provides valuable insights into selecting the right therapy for survivors of childhood abuse and shares exercises that can support healing and breaking intergenerational patterns. This episode is for anyone seeking understanding, support, and inspiration on the path to healing from childhood abuse. Whether you're a survivor yourself or someone supporting a survivor, I hope this conversation brings light to the path of resilience and transformation. So join us as we embark on this empowering conversation with Heather on Even Tacos Fall Apart, because even when tacos fall apart, the journey of healing from childhood abuse leads to strength, renewal, and a brighter future.
Yes, perfect. Hello. Welcome everybody to another Mental Health Monday. Super excited to be joined tonight by Heather Schulien. And my child is trying to distract me already, but I have told him he needs to go bother his older brother if he needs anything. So I'm going to ignore that he's standing right over there gesturing to me. Are you bleeding? Okay, go away then.
Good rule.
Thank you. All right. So Heather is a licensed clinical social worker with over 2 decades of experience providing mental health care to adults, children, and veterans in Chicago, Illinois. She just moved to California. Hey. She earned a Master of Science degree in Child Development from Erickson Institute and a Master of Social Work concurrently, which sounds like a lot of work. In addition to her running her therapy private practice, she serves on the DEI committee of National Association for Social Workers, Illinois chapter. Her specialties include adult survivors of childhood trauma, adoption, anxiety, academic planning, career planning, child development, and depression. So, Heather, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your Monday evening.
I am delighted to be here.
So a couple of things before we get started here. I do have a question queue open. If you have any questions for our guests, feel free to type them into the chat. If you want to officially ask them, use !Q and then type it, and that'll just make sure that it gets the attention and it puts it into a separate queue that I see on my screen separately. So yes, just like this, Bite Mark is going to start us off with a little question and put it into the queue and everything, which is great. And I will apologize in advance. I am coughing a little bit. My allergies are going freaking crazy. So if I'm coughing, I have some cough drops and everything. So just forgive me. So our first question of the night is going to come from chat and from Bite Mark, and that is, what is your favorite poem?
Me?
Yes.
I don't know. Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout would not take the garbage out.
Perfect.
My top 5.
Yes, absolutely. That's perfect. Yes, the freeze did not stop the pollen, which I also find very rude. So Heather, can you tell us a little bit more about you and what made you interested in becoming interested in mental health as a profession?
Well, when I was a kid, I'm the person that everybody told all their problems to, just whether they knew me or not. And it was something I always wanted to do. I wrote in 7th grade, I wrote a paper for my career day thing, and I wanted to be a child psychologist. So I went for my undergrad. I did psychology and criminal justice because I didn't know about social work. So I ended up double majoring in psychology and criminal justice, and they complement each other beautifully. And then eventually went back to grad school and got my master's in social work and master's in child development, and they also complement each other beautifully. And so I just really like talking to people, and I really like being able to help, and turns out I'm pretty good at it. And so if I had to do something else, I don't know what I would do because I'm pretty good at this. And right. So it's just always been who I am. I was always going to be this person.
That's awesome. I mean, you hear all kinds of people's reasons and people's backgrounds and their why. And sometimes it's like you're saying, I've always been drawn to me to talk to me and kind of try to work things out with me. And that's wonderful. I think that that's a calling. If ever I've heard of someone having a calling, that seems like it's that destiny. Yes. Perfect. Yep. It's your destiny.
And actually, when I was trying to decide, and I was telling one of my friends about it, and I was trying to decide what to do for grad school. What should I do? What should I do? And I kept having nightmares about saving children from burning ships. And my friend was like, "Hey, dummy, maybe you should work with children." Oh, that's a good idea.
a little dream interpretation in there, right? Just
kind of
extrapolate
our brains talk to us, right? Our brains talk to us constantly.
Yes.
It's just vague.
That's true. Very true. Dr. D, welcome on in. Poly people, welcome. First time chatter here. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. So what is your favorite thing about working in this field, and what are some of the biggest challenges that you feel like you face?
My favorite thing is helping people figure things out and finding the joy they were looking for. One of my guys, I used to say this guy, he was the angriest man in the world, and then he was the saddest man in the world, and now he's the happiest man in the world. He used to cry because he was sad, and now he cries because he's happy. That thrills the pants off me. I love it. And that's what I like. I like helping people figure out where they want to go and what they want to do and how to get there. I don't remember the second part of your question.
Oh, the biggest challenges.
Oh, biggest challenges? When people don't listen to me. Just kidding. I mean, kind of. Ask me for help and then do the opposite thing. I mean, that's frustrating.
Sounds like kids.
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest challenge is it depends on your population. Up until this very moment, I have been very focused on children and families almost exclusively, and because I have the specialty. And I've kind of phased out of that population because I cannot with parents. A lot of teachers say the same thing. You make recommendations for someone's child and they tell you, F you, we're doing something else. Well, you're going to hurt your kid if you do that. You don't know me. All right. Or, just the parent undermines the child or the treatment or just doesn't bring them or is in a fight with the other parent. I can't.
Yeah.
I'm too old.
Just the other day, so my grandmother has dementia, and I go and see her a couple times a week just to help my dad out so he's not having to worry about her all the time. And just the other day, one of the things that you can do to kind of get her to light up is really ask about stuff from her past. And so whether it's her childhood or during her career or anything, well, she was a special education early childhood development teacher. And one of the things that we were talking about the other day was her school career and what she loved about it and what she didn't like about it. And she said one of the things she loved about it were the parents. And one of the things that she hated about it were the parents, because it just depended entirely. Like a kid's progress would totally depend on how behind the teacher the parents were, or how uninvolved they were, or how against things they were. And so it's interesting to hear you kind of reflect that back, having just had that conversation with her, because it's sounds like it's very true.
It's very true, and it's very common, and it's kind of upsetting because, here you are trying to help their kid, and they're not, or they're trying, they don't like you. They decided they don't like you, and now they don't want you to help their kid. I mean, and some of them are super petty and try to mess with you and like your business.
Oh,
That sucks.
yeah,
You know,
that
I mean,
pettiness I could definitely do without.
yeah, and it's usually somebody who doesn't believe in therapy or doesn't believe in medication, and it's usually some man who's got a master's degree in something else, and it makes it hard, and it's hard on the child too,
Yeah.
because if the child has an illness, and the parent is saying, "No, you don't." Okay, then how come I can't do what everybody else is doing? Am I stupid? Right? It's so hurtful.
Yep. We face that a little bit. My kids all have their own individual growth paths, and that's great. One of the challenges on my youngest growth path is that he has Tourette syndrome. And for over a year, my ex refused to believe me that anything was wrong. I had to get we went to a neurologist and everything before he would finally relent and say like, okay, fine, stop punishing him for the tics he was having. And it's like, there's nothing
Yeah,
worse than, yeah.
I know him. I know
Yes.
him.
Yep, exactly. So it's just like, it's impossible. If you're not willing to listen to the experts, that's tough. Yeah, that is a challenge. Do you have a true crime story or a serial killer story that fascinates you?
Sort of. There is a documentary on Netflix, and the name of it just escapes me right now. I'll remember it while we're talking, but it's on Netflix, and it's about this psychologist, and she's this little tiny Jewish lady. She reminds me of my mother. But she had such a big heart, and she did a lot of work around dissociative identity disorder. And what she had a theory and tested by visiting prisons and visiting serial killers, a lot of them had the illness, dissociative identity disorder. So they're like, I didn't do it, because they didn't, because they weren't there.
Right.
Right? And it doesn't take away from the act, right? You did it, you still did it, right? Even if it was a different part of you, you still did it, I guess. But the prisons, she was like, look, she would hypnotize them and videotape it. And it was astonishing. They came right out and talked to her. It was astonishing. And it shows like when people commit violent acts, it's because something is wrong. I mean, that doesn't excuse the behavior, but it gives you a reason. Like, why would someone do this? It's because something is wrong. Most things in society that are wrong they're usually a symptom of something. Alcohol, any addiction is a symptom of a bigger problem. It's not the problem. It's just how the problem is being expressed. I mean, it's the easiest one to see.
Right. Yeah.
Right? I mean, the gambling addicts are very hard to treat because you can't even tell. Another big challenge is people not being honest with the therapist and not giving us all the information, and if they're not truthful, then I can't help, right? And I might give you bad advice because I don't know everything that's going on, which has happened a few times, and that's a huge bummer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that one of the reasons that this question is so popular, one of the reasons we ask it so often, is just kind of like the psychology behind the mind, right? Like what drives the behavior and trying to understand that. I think that's really what, from the very beginning, when this question came up on this podcast, it was one of those things that it just kind of came into the conversation naturally, and it's taken on a life of its own. So, that's just figuring out what is driving that. It is a symptom. I like the way that you put that. It is a symptom. It's a good point.
It is. I mean, and honestly, I don't know if it's true of therapists in general, but I myself, I don't, in my spare time, watch things where people are being hurt because that's what I do all day.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been doing all day for quite a long time. And so sometimes people get annoyed with me. You have to watch this terribly sad story. Ooh, I really don't.
Yeah. Yep.
You used to watch Precious. I sure don't. Sure don't.
Yeah, Dr. Z said it's hard for him too. Give me just a second. Leander, we talked about this, and if next time you need to go to bed before I start this like you normally do, that's what will happen. So this needs to be important. Okay? Okay. What's a solution you can think of that does not involve you coming in here right now? Yeah, try that. It's okay. Just, we had a whole conversation that you're now ignoring. They're on Christmas break.
That's some damn good parenting, lady. That was great.
Thank you. They're on Christmas break, and I was like, look, normally you would go to bed. However, if you want to stay up, you can stay up, but you need to not bother me.
What?
Yes, yeah, exactly. And he is the cutest little thing too, so he's really hard to say no to. So Susie David said, some cultures don't believe in therapy. When the person is gone, then they worry. Yep, that's very true.
It's true.
Okay, Bite Mark has a question in the chat. She says, do you have any advice for kindly explaining to co-parents or other adults that behaviors are due to a diagnosis and not just being a jerk teenager? That's a great question.
Well, I think the premise is bad, right? No children, I always say, fruit spoils not children. If children are acting out, it's a symptom. They're either uncomfortable, in pain, or something else is wrong. And children are not super articulate usually and may not be aware of their own experience or what they're doing or why it's bad. So nothing is from a kid just being a jerk. If they're being a jerk, you have to find out why they're being a jerk. And so with co-parents, it's very difficult. If you're on the same page, then you just talk about it. You make an agreement. Sometimes we write it down. And then you go by that and you reevaluate as you need to as the children grow. If your co-parent is less great, there are many books that you can read to navigate that challenge. My top one is called Splitting, and it's how to co-parent with a narcissist and or a borderline person.
I need that book. It's called
Girl,
Splitting.
Get it. Fantastic.
Okay. Let's see, Splitting. Do you know who wrote it?
Well, I'll tell you what. Don't, because I use the hardcover and the hardcover in another room. But I'll tell you, the cover is two colors. It's blue and brown.
Oh, I see it. Protecting yourself while divorcing someone with borderline or narcissistic personality disorder. That is by Bill Eddy. I'm gonna put, this is a Goodreads link. You buy it or get it however you want to. No sponsored anything. So there you go. Yeah, I'm gonna add that one to my want to read list right now.
It's so helpful. And you know what else it does is it lets you know the thing that you're going through that's so horrific. You are not alone. There are so many people with the same exact problem, and it's a huge, difficult, gut-wrenching, exhausting experience when the other parent is undermining the child to hurt you. And it's hard to deal with. And so a lot of the treatment for that is learning how to accept that the other person's not going to be the person you wish they were. And learning to accept that and accept that and accept that. Right? It's very difficult. But you can't change other people. You can only do your best. And if the other parent wants to act crazy and it hurts the child, well, you're going to find a way to discuss that with the child on a developmentally appropriate level.
Yep, and that's tough. Bite Mark, you know the things that I've gone through with both of my kids' other parents. In one case, I had to go all the way to like getting an official diagnosis from a literal brain surgeon so that he wouldn't be able to argue. In other cases, I have to like point out that, hey, your mom's a psychologist. How come you're not paying attention to anything that's going on here?
Psychologist.
Yeah, probably. You're actually, that's probably very true.
Yeah.
So I feel you. That's a tough one. It's hard to, when you know that something is caused by something else and the other parent's refusing to acknowledge it, that's really tough.
Right, like the classic example is watching your child wait by the window or wait by the door for the other parent to show up again and again and again, and they get so hopeful and they sit there all day and it's super terrible. And it's really hard to talk to your kid about that. What we end up saying is something like, your dad does love you, but your dad has trouble making appointments. He's not super good at coming to his appointments. He's not super good at respecting other people's time. And it's not a reflection on you, it's a reflection on him. Because any child is going to internalize that as rejection.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that messes up the way they behave with everybody else. So, right, if your kid's being a jerk, in a nice way, ask them why. What's wrong? How are you feeling? Why do you think that? It's my favorite question. Why do you think that?
It's a good question to ask kids, honestly.
It's a good question to ask anyone.
Yeah, that's true also.
It's excellent with adults too.
Yeah. So Susie David has a question. They said, I have some things that happened to me when I was little that I can't forget. Will there be a time that I will forget holidays? Make it worse, can't be around people. That's a really good transition into our topic tonight. So tonight we're talking about the emotional struggles of adult survivors of childhood abuse. So this can kind of ease us into there. So what are some of those effects of child abuse that linger into adulthood?
Well, it definitely depends on the timing and the type of abuse somewhat. But if it's, the kind of parents that are fighting and hate each other before you're even born, your chance for having healthy relationships at the outset is much lower. Your capacity for dealing with frustration or typical social dynamics, right? Like the child who's always looking for validation, constant validation from other children who don't understand it and don't know how to give it and just get upset and end up blowing the kid off, which feeds on itself, right? I don't think that we ever really forget. We learn how to not think about it. We learn how to separate ourselves from the trauma, try to become an outside observer of it, and have empathy for yourself in the moment that wasn't your fault and you didn't cause it. The more painful part of that is accepting that the person who's supposed to love you the most in the world is the one that's hurting you. And there's actually a word for it, or a label for that, which is the biological paradox. And it's a concept from Daniel Siegel, Siegle. He's fantastic. Just type his name into anything. And lots to study. But the biological paradox is basically that. So when you're a little kid, who's your best friend? Mommy. Who's your other best friend? Daddy. Or, the other parent, whoever that may be. And, well, when you're scared, who do you run to? Your parents. When you're sad, who do you run to? Your parents. What if it's your parents that are hurting you and scaring you? Then what do you do? And that is it's super common. We're very fragile. And it has very distinct outcomes. And the child basically has two choices. They either become a pleaser, which is what most people end up with, or they basically lose their mind. And that's the kid who just acts out really explosively and uncontrolled and basically kind of ends up mirroring the parent that is hurting them. And it has a lot to do with the way we attach to each other and how we relate to one another. And if that developmental stage isn't reached in a healthy way at the beginning, you'll have to go to, as soon as you figure it out, go to therapy.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly think that it should be part of the curriculum. Social and emotional learning should be part of every curriculum all the way back to kindergarten, preschool. I mean, they are doing it more.
Yeah.
They're starting to. It's very exciting.
They're starting to, which is great. I agree. I wish that they would start that in kindergarten and continue it all the way through senior year of high school. There are different things that you need to learn all along the way. And if you aren't learning them at home, where else are you going to learn them? You have to learn them at school. It's got to be where it shows up. So is it mostly relationship issues? If there's something that lingers from childhood, is it mostly issues in your adult relationships? Because everything basically comes down to how we relate to one another. The system that we use for that is called the attachment system. The father of attachment theory is John Bowlby, Bowlby. I can spell. And if you know the developmental stages from Erickson Institute, one of the first stages is learning to trust others will come and help you if you need it, right? So if you cry, like if your child cries, doesn't matter where you are, baby, and you run to the baby. And in fact, if you are alone in the store and you hear another baby crying, baby, women's blood pressure goes up a little bit when we hear a baby cry. Just is, right? But when you do that, it teaches the child that they are lovable and worthy of care. They learn how to trust others. They learn what it feels like to be trusted, right? But if you cry and no one comes, well, your heart breaks. Or if they come sometimes, it's very confusing, which creates anxiety. What does every child need? 100% reliability and consistency. And if you can't even come when they cry because they're hungry or tired or dirty, right, and no one comes, not only are you not lovable and worthy of care, but you're sitting in pain or sadness or dirt or some form of neglect, right? And your message is, well, no one cares about me, and if I need someone, no one's coming. I can't trust anyone, right? So I use my brother as an example pretty regularly. So my brother and I are both adopted. He's from Vietnam. And at the end of the Vietnam War, I don't really understand how this came about, but the government did this thing called the airlift. So all the women in Vietnam were running to Saigon to either have their baby or drop the baby off to protect, because war. And a lot of the babies were orphaned, most of them. So they put them on planes and sent them to America, the UK, and I think Australia. My brother was one of those. So if you know any babies, have any experience with children, and you've seen a baby with an ear infection, it's the most blood-curdling scream. Yeah. I mean, it curls your toes, it curdles your blood, it scrambles your brain. It's so painful. And the child is in so much pain. They scream like they're being killed. When my brother came, he was quiet. He didn't cry much at all. He was weird about the water. And it took a minute. He had ear holes in both eardrums from untreated ear infection. Oh my gosh.
No crying. No indication of that.
Because it
It took
hadn't
my
done him
parents
any
a while
good.
to figure it out because there was no indication. They couldn't understand why he didn't like the water. It probably hurt him so much, right? But my brother's heart broke before he even got to America. Did he witness his parents' death? Does he just want to know where they are? Where's my mommy? Where's my mommy? Right? He and I'm sure, the nuns did their best with 8 billion babies.
Right.
Feed, 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 change, change, change. Feed, 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 change, change, change. They're all crying. So my brother's kind of a sociopath. He doesn't take care of others. He is a gambling addict. He acts out all over the world, and he doesn't trust anyone. And he is kind of a grifter. And my parents, they raised us as equally as they could. I have a master's in social work, and he has a gambling addiction. Right? My early childhood wasn't as traumatic as his. I mean, mine wasn't. The only trauma, the basic trauma, I think, from every adopted child is the initial, where's my mommy? Even if they took you right away, still, where's my mommy? And, it's like taking a cat from her mother. It's not that different. Where's my mommy? Everybody adjusts, but there is that pain, and I think a lot of kids who are adopted have that, like, are you going to abandon me? Am I good enough? Just at the beginning, no matter how hard your parents work or don't, right? My parents work very hard. They're very nice people, right? And my early childhood stuff was, where's my mommy? Where's my mommy? Oh, here I am. And that was okay. But my brother, he was broken, and
Yeah.
he couldn't complete things, and he couldn't finish school. Super smart. He's just a mean guy. And that's what happened. If you're a baby and your heart breaks, it's broken, right? That's why taking care of babies so crucially important. The first 3 months are the most important part of everybody's life. Crucial that you come when they cry. Crucial that you pick them up when they cry. Fruit spoils, not children.
Yeah.
Home is supposed to be the soft, warm place to land, even though the rest of the world is hard. Right? The rest of the world is hard, so it should be soft at home.
I
Loving.
agree with that for sure.
Sorry if
Does
I'm rambling.
no, that's okay. So does trauma in childhood, does it actually change things in the brain?
It does. It rewires it a bit, right? Because now the moment that trauma is born, really, clinically, truly, is the moment you think you're going to die, right? So one of my very first trauma patients back in the day was a man who was a delivery driver for a messenger agency. And he was driving on the expressway, and he was in Chicago, and he was on the inner lane, lots of traffic. So on his right was the barrier, the cement barrier between the two things. And he looks up and he sees another truck coming right at him, like right at him. Nothing he can do, very few moments to make any decisions. He saw his children, all their births, his life flashed before his eyes. I'm going to die. And he didn't die. But he had a flashback every second, every 10 seconds, every 10 seconds. He was in that car accident over and over again. Because what your brain does is it puts some of it away, right? Because it knows you can't take it. And also it doesn't understand. It waits. So if you're having flashbacks, that means you're replaying the event. And you're replaying the event because your brain is trying to understand and process what happened. And it can't because it doesn't have all the details. So the classic example of that is the Army soldier in the trench, right? I'm sitting next to my buddy. We're smoking cigarettes and playing cards. Woo, woo, woo. Nothing's going on. Oh, crap. Here comes a mortar. 5 hours later, I come to. I have only one leg and no buddy. Where's my buddy? What happened? And he doesn't have any information about the last 5 hours. And even when he wakes up, he might not remember yet, right? What do you mean he's not here? We were just, right? And until he has all the pieces for the event, a mortar came, it was this kind, it hit us this way, this is what happened. And until he has all those pieces, again, 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 again. But if you don't get treatment, you don't know what's wrong with your brain. And you can't make it stop on your own. So you start drinking. That's when the drinking starts. So I found out recently that, not that recently, that it changes us genetically. So the genes that get traumatized move down to your reproductive areas, and we transmit it through birth. Isn't that fun?
Wow.
I learned that from Daniel Siegel. The example he was using was the Holocaust. It's called epigenetic trauma. It's trauma that crosses generations, right? And the first time I heard that a person is still being traumatized now by the Holocaust, it seems far-fetched. But you have to think about how it changes each preceding generation, right? What is happening?
Thanks for that follow, Waddles. Appreciate you.
And so, for instance, this is the example he used. Grandma is in the concentration camp. She is pregnant. She's hungry. She's stressed out, but she's mostly okay. And she's not there as long. And she gets liberated before the baby is born. Gets liberated, moves to America, has the baby, raises the baby, everything's fine. The mother who comes from the grandma, she has children, and her children are born with trauma symptoms. So some kids are naturally anxious or naturally depressed. They got it from somewhere else. It came down the line, right? And so in the training, I was like, okay, everybody World War II, probably traumatized, right? And then I started thinking, okay, World War II, wait. I'm 49. In my lifetime, there were 5 minutes where we weren't at war. Us, America.
Yeah.
Keeping in mind there's war and genocide every day all over the world. War and genocide every day. There was a brief period in like the late 80s. No war. Other than that, war. Korea, Vietnam, the Civil War, World War I, World War II, all of it. It changes us as a society. It changes our fight or flight systems, right? So when you get scared, your body, it's fight, flight, freeze, or faint, right? Freezing, that's what I do. I don't do anything. I just stand there like an idiot. I don't think I have good genes. Some people square up. Some people run, and some people pass out, lights out. Depends on the trauma, right? But if you're constantly being traumatized and you feel traumatized, there's too much cortisol, which is the stress hormone, probably too much adrenaline, which is the excitement hormone. And guess what you're going to do? You're going to get anxious. And then you're going to get depressed. Guess what you're going to do? You're going to start drinking or doing drugs or something, right? Or shopping or eating something because you don't feel good and your brain's going in a circle and you don't know why. And you don't ask anybody and you think it's just you. And so I can deal with it myself. I just need to blah, blah, blah bullshit that I made up. All I have to do is this thing I made up. Okay. And so that's one of the things that I talk to my people a lot is you don't have to do everything yourself. You really can't. There's nobody that gets through this life without needing help sometime from someone. You can't do it all yourself. That's not a thing.
Yeah.
you're probably not going to get out of this life with at least one pill. Let it go. If the thing standing between you and happiness or peace or not panic attacks is a little white pill, what are you doing?
Right. Yeah.
Right? Why would you do that to yourself? I should be able to do it myself. Why do you think that? Well, because something I made up. Okay. Well, how about we don't white knuckle our life? I tell people
Yeah.
all the
If your
time,
if
you
your
don't have
brain's
to
not
white
making its
knuckle it.
own, it's fine.
Right. You don't have to torture yourself like that. There's no need.
Yeah. That reminds me of the that meme where it's
Mm.
like millennials living through yet another world first event kind of thing. It's like, yeah, everything's there's been so much trauma, especially in the last few years, collectively as a whole, even worldwide. There's been a lot of trauma. I think that's something that probably doesn't get enough attention.
By God, woman. If I hear one more person talk crap about millennials or Gen Z, I'm going to scream.
Yep.
I grew up with this one child who is 15 going on 35, a brilliant child. And the theory they put forth was, every generation before us gets mad at the next generation, right? Whippersnappers, ungrateful, out of control, crazy, violent, blah, right? It's the same for every generation. And the theory was the previous generation knows they're running out of time, and the younger people are getting to do things that they didn't get to do and they're not going to get to do. And they don't want to be replaced, and they don't want to miss out, but they're going to. And they're mad. They're resentful, right? Sometimes parents say to me, well, if I would have did that, my mom would have slapped me into next week. Well, is that what you want to do? Do you want to slap your kid into next week? Of course not. You're just mad because they're acting out and you don't know what to do. And you know what your mom did, and that was bad. But your kid, you don't want that to be a factor for your kid, right? Everything comes down to you have to take a deep breath so you can think about what you want to do, to say how you feel and what you need, right? If everyone can just say how they feel and what they need, the world will a lot of problems will be resolved.
That would solve a lot of problems if people could say it out loud, say what you need, and say how you're feeling. If you could just communicate that, it would solve a lot of problems.
You know what's great? Saying how you feel and what you need and getting it.
Yes. How can you get it if you don't say it?
Right. You have to ask. Just let somebody know. There's somebody in your life who loves you and cares for you and doesn't want you to be sad. And if you say you don't want to be a burden, I always say, would you consider it a burden if your friend is talking to you about their problem?
Yeah. Yep.
Right? You treat yourself as good as you would treat your own best friend or someone else that you love. You deserve it just as much as everybody else. We all deserve to be loved and to feel beautiful, loved, and special every day, all day, for who we are, as we are today and every day.
That's right. Absolutely.
I'm a human bumper.
So speaking of feeling beautiful and loved, Alpha said, I love your hair color. I love it. It's so nice and blue. And then Bite said, I'm also so tired of my parents beat me when I acted out and I'm fine. Yeah, no, you're not. First of all, no, you're not.
Right. If you're saying that,
yes,
what's wrong?
Right. Yes,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
So what we tell parents is you turned out okay despite being beaten.
Yes.
It's not, and you're fine, but despite that, you're fine.
You're not fine because of it. Right.
And for some people, I learned, I think in the first day of school at Erickson, my professor was Fran Stott, and she was the vice president at the time. And she said, all any child needs is one person in the world, just one, who loves them like crazy, who's just crazy about them. And as long as you have that one person, even if it's inconsistent, you're probably going to be okay because you'll know it's possible. But if you don't have that, then you don't know it's possible. And then you internalize that, right? I'm worthless. No one cares for me. And when you're depressed, your brain tells you that you're ugly and stupid and nobody likes you. You turn into your own bully without realizing it, right? And so, really empathy for yourself. If you feel bad, what do you need? Figure out what you need, and then you'll get it. I think I lost sight of the original question.
Well, we were just talking about the, like, my parents did this and I'm fine because of it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's kind of like, okay, yeah, your parents did that and you're fine because of it, but don't you wish that hadn't happened to begin with?
Right.
Like, wouldn't it be nice if that hadn't happened?
Well, and how many times have you heard the story? As soon as my brothers were big enough, they kicked his ass.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty often, right? Because when you're beating a child, you are not teaching them anything
Yep.
except how to be violent. And all they're doing is plotting revenge.
Yeah.
They're not thinking, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, my parent is a monster. I'm going to get these motherfuckers as soon as I can.
Yep.
Well, I beat the crap out of him. I don't know why he acts like that. Don't hit your brother. Okay.
Right. Yeah. That's what gets me is people who are like, oh, so and so hit somebody at school, so they're gonna get a beating when they get home. Like, that's the same. You're doing the same thing.
Right. And sometimes one of the other huge takeaways from Erickson Institute was that you always ruled out medical. One of my children, he was such a good boy. Such a good boy. So sweet. Spoke at the women's rally. Good boy. And a really good child. Would never hurt a fly. Suddenly he's pushing down little kids. What do you mean you're pushing down? What do you mean? What do you mean? I sent him to the doctor. He was having trouble with fine motor skills and gross motor skills. And so he couldn't throw and catch the ball like his peers. And he was very angry and just thought he was a loser. So when he got his occupational therapy, all fixed.
Yeah. And that goes back to what you're talking about earlier with the symptom. Like you got to look at what the symptom, but you got to find what the root cause is too. I think that's
right.
really
And
important.
he has the nicest, most loving, because he's wonderful, because his parents are wonderful. They're loving. And so when he started doing that, they were mortified and also so confused.
Yeah.
And they called me right up. Hello. Hello. Can we come over right now? Hello. Because it was so shocking.
Yeah.
And if it's shocking, if it's a sudden change in behavior, you have to look at like what's going on. If we go from being like a regular kid to a super angry one, something's wrong.
Yep. Absolutely. So you were talking a little bit about kind of PTSD in soldiers and people who've been in combat and all of that. Do you do anything differently to treat PTSD versus something like CPTSD, which is, that continual complex PTSD?
Well, it's a pretty new category. I don't even think it's official yet, but I think it's the most common one, right? Because I don't have statistics. I don't know what they are, but a huge portion of that population had early childhood trauma, whether it was from abuse and or neglect, or a horrific environment, or like poverty, or like third world country stuff, no shoes, no floor, no clean water. Chronic pain does a terrible number on our brain because you can't get relief. And then you start feeling bad about how you can't get relief. If you have panic attacks, you worry about more panic attacks. So when it comes to PTSD, it really comes down to, for everyone, learning that you are traumatized and that you have a right to feel bad and you have a right to feel better. And the fact that you're traumatized wasn't your choice, right? Like I said earlier, we're very fragile. So if you and I witness a murder, we're different people from different time and different places, different everything, except for we're both women and human. right? And if we witness a murder, we're going to have the same set of thoughts, the same set of behaviors, the same set of symptoms. They're going to be the same. That's why we have the book of diagnoses, because we're all the same, especially when something's wrong, right? If you have a lung infection, you cough. If you're depressed, you think you're ugly. So, right, do different traumas cause different responses? Yes. If you have a violent parent, you're going to be shaky and worried all the time and have a fear of being abandoned and have a fear of being beaten, right? It's hard for you to trust people. It's hard for you to feel safe. But that would also happen if, you lived in Germany in World War II or Poland. You know what I mean? The thing that makes it complex is the repetition, and there's a difference between like a singular I witnessed a murder and the daily trauma of abuse and neglect in families, right? And the path is the same, but the number of steps might be longer, right? So I did have someone who had witnessed a murder, and I have had some people who witnessed different crimes, right? And if that was their only trauma, I mean, everybody has a little, but if that was their only trauma, we worked through how they felt about it, the anxieties they were having about it. Person look for me, are they off the street? Are they going to know? Blah, blah, right? All those fears. But if that's it, you learn to cope with those set of thoughts and feelings, and then you move on and it goes in the distance. But if you're getting beaten every day before school and then forced to go through your school day, you're going to be a different guy or person, right? And so the treatment will be different. It's really like where you have to start. So the kids who got beaten, but they're still okay, it's because the person who was beating them might have been inconsistent and really, really loving in between beatings. Sorry, son, this is what I have to do. It hurts me more than it hurts you, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it doesn't, but it hurts everyone. That's why we shouldn't do it. I mean, it rips parents' guts out. The first time my kid did something wrong, which wasn't until she was almost an adult, I didn't know what to do because she never did anything wrong before. My head exploded. I'm a child development specialist. My head exploded. You know?
I mean, it's good. It's good to hear that even a child development specialist can be like, "Shit, I don't know what to do."
Yeah, like if I had had a lifetime of building up the toolbox, I just had no tools. I didn't know what to do. It took me a while to make a plan for us.
Yeah.
And, she's a fantastic person.
Yeah.
She is an adult. She's fantastic. And it was just a teeny tiny little phase.
Yep.
But we are all human and we all do have trouble. Brene Brown told us this. I went to a training with her, and she can't get out of bed sometimes. She pulls the cover over her head sometimes. Daring Greatly came from the comments after the first TED Talk. Her therapist and her husband said, don't read the comments. So she read the comments. And it ruined her for a minute, a long minute. And it made her so sad and so insecure and so unsettled, unseated, right? And it took her a while to come back. And what helped her come back was that Roosevelt quote about daring greatly. Oh, there's my favorite poem. I can't recite it, but it's the Daring Greatly poem from Roosevelt. If you type that in, it'll pop right up. Then that was the name of the book. So I think that was her third book. I think it's the best book.
Yeah. Let's see. This is the right one. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who never know victory nor defeat. I like that. That's good. That's a good one.
It's a great book. It's a great poem. And she read it right when she needed it.
Yeah.
And
I think there are a lot of things that if they come into your life, if you read something on one day, you're going to read it one way. But if you read it when you really need it, like you're going to take exactly what you need to take from it, which I think is really cool.
Mm-hmm. I recommend that book to anyone, everyone. I mean, the ones before it are that book, Daring Greatly, is the culmination of the first two books. So you don't need to bother with the first two. And then the ones after lean more towards like industrial psychology and working with, leadership stuff, which is great, but it's not my thing.
So there's a link to that book in the chat if you need to grab it. Are adults who are victimized as children at higher risk for re-victimization later in their lives?
Yes. It's because, and I was thinking while you were talking that with the complex population, they need more information about that they're okay, right? That they are lovable and special and that they deserve everything that everybody else does, because a lot of people don't know that. And so the people who have gone through things like that, they need extra validation. The problem, the thing that's really broken are your internal resources, right? So you lack them. You don't know how to soothe yourself when you're sad. So when I was little, if I skinned my knee, my mom woo-wooed me and kissed it and made it better. And you'll be okay. It'll be okay. Okay. So I learned, and her thing was always dust yourself off, get up, dust yourself off, throw some water on your face and get back to it. And that's how I do it. Right? But if you didn't have someone doing that for you, if you skin your knee and you're just sitting there bleeding and no one cares, it teaches you a different message, that no one cares about you and no one's ever going to care about you. So quit your whining. Who are you? What do you mean you need help? Get out of here. You don't get that. That's for sissies, right? It changes the whole way you see yourself and how you see the world and how you think the world sees you. I had a person a long time ago who used to get in arguments with people in public. And when he was telling me about it, he would always start with, they think I'm blah, blah, blah. Well, they don't know you. They don't think anything. The one who thinks that is you. Oh, you're the only one that thinks that. They don't know you, so they don't have any thoughts about you. He was talking about me like blah, blah, like, man, get out of his face. If someone's rude, keep it moving, right? Who cares? But a lot of people get real caught up with that guy who's talking shit to them in public. I mean, I lived in Chicago for 25 years. Somebody's talking shit to me in public, and and I worked in residential treatment with psychotic teenagers, and right? But I have that system built in and strengthened by my work, right? But if you don't have that and you don't know how to do it, it's so much harder for you. If you don't know how to make yourself feel better when you feel bad and you're alone, it's really hard. You'll start drinking. If you don't know what to do, you're going to do something to make it stop.
Yeah. So you kind of lack that base of how to really operate in the world a little bit.
Right. Like something's really upsetting me. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay. Well, you're 35. Breathe. You're okay. No one's going to die. Everything's okay. Deep breath. How do you feel? Okay. What do you need? Okay. How are we going to get that? Right. And this is the voice I use in that situation. Right. Because, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Right. And then this goes. And you're in a circle. You're chasing your tail. Oh my God. Right. Because you don't know. You're okay. It's okay. No one's going to die. If anybody dies, that'll be okay too. You're not going to die. It's okay. Right? Breathe. Because, right, our biggest problem is that in that moment, we're hyperventilating. And in that moment, your brain can't work. Right? And two, my biggest, if you take nothing from me today, take this. When you're mad, your IQ goes down. And not a little, all the way. Right? So as mad as you are, that's how dumb you are. This is why when we're mad, we do real stupid crap. Spiteful, vindictive, petty crap. Because we're mad. And we just want you to feel as mad as I do. So
Interesting.
get fucked. Get fucked,
Right.
bitches.
Yeah.
Right? And are you going to make any good choices? No. Are you going to say anything logical? No. If we're mad, what should we do? Separate. We'll separate and we'll remove ourselves from the angry situation so we can breathe and be reasonable with ourselves and the other person. Right? Like, you have to give yourself a chance. And you don't have to decide anything right this minute. And you have plenty of time. It's going to be okay. But if no one ever told you that, you just go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Or you develop OCD. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Right? You're oh my God about everything all day long. So stressful.
I've never heard that about your anger kind of making your IQ drop, but that makes a lot of sense. It really does. I mean, if you get so mad that you're kind of seeing red, like, you're not thinking anymore. That's very true. You are not thinking in that moment.
Nope.
You're not using the logic part of your brain at all.
No, because it's gone.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh, did you have brains? No, you don't. I was standing in my bedroom. I'm divorced from a man, and I was standing in my window, and I saw him do something outside, and I was folding laundry. I saw him do something, and I was like, this motherfucker, I'll show him. Oh, calm down. As soon as you think, I'll show him, okay, you need to take a deep breath. As soon as you start plotting revenge, you need to get a glass of water. Put some water on your face. Go for a run. Go for a walk. Go for a nap. For a shower. Do something.
Yeah. Get a little snack.
And breathe.
Yep.
Breathe. Right? I've known people who hold their breath all day long. Breathe.
Yep.
My first tattoo.
Nice. Yep. That's a good reminder.
Wait. It's not. It's my third. Whatever.
Well, my arm tattoos are not as as wordy, but they're good. So, is understanding or confronting what someone went through as a child important to healing from whatever they went through?
It depends on the trauma and the person, right? So sometimes you know everything that happened to you and you need help disconnecting from it. Sometimes you don't have all the information and it doesn't matter. It has no bearing on your future or your present. You know what it is. We can leave it there because it's not affecting me. So what I say is sometimes our brain, we compartmentalize. We put it in a box on a shelf back here where we can't see it, right? And then when you feel better and you feel like, okay, oh, here you go. I wasn't ready. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's back there and it's poking you and you don't know what's poking you, right? So I had a child who he was one of the most traumatized people I've still ever met. And he could not regulate himself. He was a big kid. He was tall and he was a big, like a football player sized kid. And when he acted out, he ate his detention slip in front of the teacher.
That's kind of funny.
I mean,
but
I didn't laugh.
Not good.
I didn't laugh, but it was a little hard because that was funny. But he couldn't regulate himself, and we couldn't figure out why. So at the time, I worked in a clinic with a bunch of other therapists, and one of them had started doing EMDR for the clients. And so what we did was I did regular individual therapy with him, and she did EMDR. And he recovered some memories that he didn't know were there that were really hurting him. And it was some super violent, just violent stuff from his early childhood. And he got it, he got the memories so he could understand why he was so upset. Because the thing that happened was just, I don't have words for how bad it was, right? And if your brain doesn't understand, you're going to keep replaying it, right? And if you don't understand why you're so fucked up, you're just going to be uncomfortable and in pain and act out. Because that's all you have. Because you don't know what's wrong. Right? And so it depends person to person. There are some people for whom we leave it. But like I said, sometimes it bleeds through just a little bit, just enough to mess you up. There was one person, it took us probably 2 years to figure out what it was. And we got there by talking about it and talking about it, and talking about it until it finally, oh, that's what it was. That's what it was. It was a rape that they had put away. And it was being triggered constantly. And they had no information about what that trigger was from. And we just talked about it and talked about it and talked about it. And it came out eventually. And once it came out, she probably came to therapy for a few more months. All her dreams came true.
Yeah.
She's having the exact life she wanted. It's fantastic.
So it just kind of depends on how it's impacting you in your daily life a little bit, whether you need to confront it or not.
Right? Like if you were being, abused in one way or another, right? It also matters what the message was that accompanied the beatings or the abuse, right? And what messages came in between the beatings and who was doing it and how often. I went to high school with somebody who was being abused by her father and her brother. And I remember thinking at the time, what is she supposed to do? That girl was not okay.
Yeah.
And when you're a kid and it's coming at you from literally all sides, you'll deteriorate. Because if you never do get the support, you won't have the strength, right? And it also matters how resilient we are, and we don't have a control over that either, right? So I could be a very resilient person, and I'm okay. I used to know a kid who'd say, "I'm not bleeding. I'm okay." He was so cute. But there are some people who are so sensitive, and it's like they don't have skin at all. It's not that they don't have thick skin, it's that they don't have any. And that is not their fault. There's the highly sensitive person. It's a real thing. Some things hurt some people more than they hurt others, right? Childbirth is a great example. Some of us can do it. Some of us could never do it, right? It's a special kind of person that can tolerate that level of pain, especially more than once, right? There's a resilience to just becoming a biological mother. The things it does, the physical sacrifice you make, much less all the others, not everyone can withstand that, right? That's why we have postpartum depression and those other postpartum illnesses, because it's incredibly draining and exhausting and difficult. All right, why aren't you back to work yet? What are you doing, bitch? So lazy. So fat. What's wrong with you? I mean, some women, their hair stops growing.
Or falls out. That's what mine
Or
did.
falls out, or changes color, or changes texture. Your nails change. Your feet change. Your feet change size sometimes.
Yes, they do.
You. Fuck you, right? Like, I never gave birth. I don't think I could have. I really don't. I don't think my body could have done it. I mean, no. I don't think I would recover from that.
Yeah.
Right? It's just how it is,
Yeah.
right? But I mean, you have more than one, right? You did it, and you get up every day and do stuff, normal stuff. How you do stuff for other people, right?
Yeah, my hair has a tendency 3 months after usually any traumatic event, which childbirth is a traumatic event. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. My hair falls out in mass, like just like handfuls of it out, and
Mhm.
my feet went up both times half a size with each kid. So my shoe size is 9.5 to 10. And before it was like 8.5 and 9.
You know what I gave up for you.
Exactly.
All her shoes.
Yep. So you mentioned EMDR and, kind of the CBT, talk therapy type stuff. How do you select the right therapy for someone who has been abused, or is it always just dependent individually on the person?
Well, so you have to think of those theories as, or those models as tools in a toolbox, right? So if you have a broken part in your house, there's rarely just one tool that you will use to fix it, right? I mean, you might need a drill and a different drill bit than the one you have or something, right? And so you're going to use all the tools you have with everyone, right? Some will require all the tools. There used to be a kid who I told him, no, a guy, I told him he made me do mental push-ups because nothing that worked with everybody else worked with him. I mean, he told me breathing was for sissies. Okay. Okay. Mental, right? All the tools. And that's what, the model of social work, the mode, the mantra is to meet the client where they're at, right? So I'm not asking him to come up to where I am and where everybody else is, to go down where he is. He could barely sit with me. But when he got home, he'd write me 4 pages, typed. And he would tell me amazing, important things that he just couldn't say to my face.
Yeah.
And, there are some therapists who would be annoyed by that. Right? And you have to meet them where they are. You can't expect them to be anything than what they are. So if they can't get through any stress without having negative thoughts, or if they are plagued by just rampant negative thoughts all day, then we're going to start with CBT. We're going to redirect those thoughts, but we're also going to use psychodynamics to understand how you got to that place in the first place, right? And people come on, everything's your childhood. It is, because that's where you started. It's the everything you are today is a result of everything you've been up until today.
Yeah.
It's just how it is. Oh, it comes down to your parents. Yeah, because that's who you started with, right? You're not a car, right? Our experiences are cumulative. They change as we grow, right? And so there isn't just one tool, and that is a misconception that people. Are you a CBT therapist? All therapists are CBT therapists.
Yeah.
Right? We all learn all of them. And some schools are more research focused, and some schools are psychodynamics. The University of Chicago has their whole own thing, which no one likes, but whatever. Every school has their focus. There's a school in downstate Illinois that is a state school, and there's Chicago, and then there's the rest of Illinois. So Chicago is so blue, and it has almost 3 million people, right? And then the rest of Illinois has 5 people, and it's red, and they're super pissed because that red stuff's never going to happen there, right? And excuse me. And so the school in downstate was geared more towards like rural people or lower income people. It's a state school, but wow, they have one of the most comprehensive psychology programs that I've seen. It's as good as Northwestern, which is a top school in America. Chicago has quite a lot of universities and colleges. There's probably 30, right? But it just matters. Like, you have to look at what school you want to go to and what their focus is, right? Some schools focus on research, some focus on children, some focus on the whole lifespan. Some people focus on just old people. Some people focus on just children, right? Some people do only families or only couples, and that's a degree too. Is the master's in marriage and family
Marriage,
therapy.
family, yeah.
Yeah, MFT, which is not a super common degree, but if that's what you want, then you have to find the school that does that. Which, don't do that, because you have to take 2 tests.
Yeah. Is it common to like work with another therapist who specializes in, like, if you don't specialize, yeah, the one that pops into mind is the EMDR type stuff. Like, that seems like a very specialized thing that you have to go to specific people for. Do you typically continue working with your clients while they're seeing someone else like that, or is it kind of just like a refer out?
It kind of depends on the milieu, right? So the person I mentioned earlier on was when we were both working in community mental health clinic. So it's a public clinic for mostly people on state or federal insurance, right? So these are chronically mentally ill people with very few resources, right? And so we were able to collaborate like in person, and it was fantastic. And we already knew each other really well. It was super fantastic. And so we just worked in tandem. In this setting, it's not as easy to do that, but I also don't need to as often because the people I work with now are more regulated people, right? I'm not working with people who are chronically mentally ill. Now, I do often collaborate with psychiatrists, which is the person who provides medication. So it's either a psychiatrist or a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, which there's a shortage of psychiatrists in the country anyway. And the field of nurse practitioner, mental health nurse practitioner has been really popping up. And a nurse practitioner is fantastic because they have just as much, almost as much privilege as the doctor, more knowledgeable than a nurse, almost a doctor, can do everything for you that you need.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice, usually. Because the psychiatrist shortage is real. They don't get paid very well by insurance, and so a lot of them don't end up taking insurance, which makes it hard on the public because they don't have $250 a month,
Right.
per se.
Yeah.
And so we collaborate, like if you're working with children, we'll collaborate with teachers, right? Or principals or school counselors. Sometimes the medical doctor, sometimes the neurologist if the child has a neurological difference of some kind. Some kids have really severe ADHD or, all the spectrum of things that children can have, right? And if you're not a specialist in that, or even not a specialist with children, then you're going to at least consult with one, right?
Yeah.
So I can not necessarily, if I need help, I don't necessarily talk to someone who works with that child, but I may need to consult with other therapists. This is my problem. What do you think I should do? This is what I was going to do. Should I do this? Right? And it's great. Therapists love to help each other.
Yeah.
And we consult with each other regularly on any number of things. I have a friend who is like the queen of ethics. And if I have an ethical dilemma, what would you do? I don't know what to do. Do I have to call DCFS? Fuck. Nobody likes that.
Yeah.
Right? But if you don't know what to do, you can ask. You can ask. There are so many places for us to get consultation, right? So it depends on the problem. Like if I were to take a child on who I thought had behavior problems, and that's what was told to me, but then they get there and they have autism, then I'm going to have to refer them out because I don't know anything about autism.
Yeah.
I have never worked with it. I've never had an autistic child. I don't even know any autistic children or children with autism. I can't, right? If it's domestic violence, I can't. Domestic violence cases require quite a lot of support, and I'm just one person, right? So if you have a domestic violence issue, you need a clinic with case managers and therapists and doctors and people that can really wrap around you and take care of your whole problem.
Yeah,
By myself, I wouldn't treat that.
Right.
Right?
Very individualized, depending on what the person needs. Absolutely.
Right. Like there are hospice social workers, which God bless
Yeah, no kidding. No
them,
kidding.
right? Or like emergency room therapists. Extra God bless them.
Yep. Well, I love hearing you say that therapists love to support each other because it reminds me of this other podcast I've been a guest on there a couple of times called If the Couch Could Speak. And it's a bunch of therapists who get together after hours and like talk about therapist-y things.
Oh, that's fun.
Which is great. And they're a wonderful group of people. But that is something that I've always felt. I'm clearly not a therapist, not any kind of mental health professional at all. I don't claim to be one, don't want to be one, could not be one, don't have the patience for it. I think you're all freaking saints. But it always impresses me so much because I'm in their Discord also. It always impresses me so much whenever I see them saying like, hey, can I call you real quick to talk through something? Like it's neat to be like witness to that and see everybody supporting each other outside of, they don't all work together. They're not in the same practice. So it's neat to see that. And it's good to hear that, that y'all support each other because what you do is not easy. What y'all do is not an easy job at all.
Well, you know, one of the things, at least in Chicago, well, probably everywhere, one of the hardest things to help people with is homelessness. It's so hard. There's no chance of enough resources anywhere. And I had a person who was a veteran, and he was so traumatized, and he could not take care of himself, and I was running out of options. And I got him into a place, but he couldn't go till next week or so. And, well, he's going to be on the street tonight, in the freezing cold tonight. What are you going to do? It's coming. What are you going to do? Well, I went on LinkedIn. Hello, social workers of the country. Help me.
Yeah.
And people had great suggestions and resources, but what's extra exciting was if he's here in Texas, I can do this for him. If he wants to come here, I can do this for him.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Very collaborative.
Yeah.
We don't have to know each other. We don't have, oh, you're a social worker, me too, blah, blah, blah. Oh, we're best friends now.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Hi, new bestie.
Hi. How are you?
Nice to meet you. Yeah. I know you said you don't have the patience for it, but I don't have the patience for it. And thought, well, obviously, yeah, no. I don't have the patience or the patience. No.
I mean, it does require quite a lot of patience.
Yes, for sure. So, are there any specific exercises that you would love to see more individuals do on a regular basis that would support healing from childhood abuse, or things that you wish more families would do that would encourage kind of breaking those patterns that they've been through?
Girl, you know I do. All right. Well, one of my favorite things for families, all families, is it's an exercise called Roses and Thorns. And before I explain it, I had this family doing it, and their little boy was 4, and just 4 going on 25. He was so smart, and he was so like emotionally intelligent on site, like to begin with, on his own. It was delightful. And so roses are what was something good about your day? Thorns, what was something really hard about your day? And the child's contribution was berries. I very much like you, mommy. So berries are affirmations. What do I very much like about you? Right? So what was good? What was hard? What do I like about somebody else at the table? If you do that every night, boy, you will learn so much about your children, and they'll learn so much about you. They'll learn how to receive compliments. They'll learn how to ask for help. They'll learn how to express their feelings and understand the feelings and expressions of others. and how not to be a dick.
Yeah, that's important, quite honestly.
For people who are traumatized, really, you need to go to therapy. If you are traumatized, you really need to go, and you need to take care of yourself. Do that thing for yourself that you need, because you can't. I mean, you can do it alone, but and you don't have to. But if for some reason you live in a place where there's no access, or you have no access, watch Daniel Siegel videos on YouTube. Read as many books as you can. But the most basic therapeutic skill is the deep breathing exercise. 5-7-5. In for 5, hold for 7, exhale for 5. And you fill your stomach, and then you cave it in. Whenever you're upset, start doing that. Whenever you're trying to go to sleep, start doing that. Especially if you're counting. Because if you're trying to fall asleep and your brain won't shut it, if you can do that, while at the same time even listening to some meditation music, you can't concentrate on the negative thoughts if you're counting. Right? If you, before there were podcasts were so prevalent, people were still listening to the radio. And so now you can listen to any radio anywhere, which is fantastic. So I would say listen to something without words. I used to recommend the classical station, because you can listen to, the Clair de Lune, and pick out one of the instruments, follow just that instrument while you're breathing, right? And you're just thinking about the one instrument, it around in my visualization around. So you don't have room for negative thinking, right? A lot of people just continue their day in their sleep. They worry in their sleep. So, as I mentioned earlier on, 2 master's degrees at the same time, not necessary. It did benefit me, but I am very in debt. Whatever. There was one point where I had 7 papers due the same week, and I thought I was going to die, and I didn't know how I was going to make it. And that's all I could think about is, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And I'd think about it while I was sleeping. How am I going to do this? How am I going to? And one night I could not sleep, and I was like, let me just write it down, because part of it is being afraid you're going to forget to do something that's important. And write it down. Put a pad by your bed, because it's still faster than getting out your notes app, right? Get that list down. Get those things you're worried about down. Okay, I can think about this tomorrow. I don't have to. I can go to sleep and worry about it tomorrow. Whatever it is not going to be solved between 1 a.m. and 7 a.m. Just isn't. Right? Give yourself enough empathy to allow yourself to rest. I heard a story way back at the beginning of my career when I worked in a preschool. It was one of those super moms, single mom. I believe she had 4 kids. It was like 4 or 5. And she was one of those moms that didn't sleep a lot. She drank Diet Coke, and she did laundry around the clock. She was one of those moms. So she had a heart attack and died in the school parking lot. I mean, eat some food. Go to sleep, lady. You're no good if you're dead.
Yeah.
Right? Because those children's lives were ruined that day.
Yeah.
Ruined for life.
Yep.
Right? You'll never get over the loss of your mother. Not suddenly when you're 4, 6.
Right.
Right? And it could have been, it didn't have to be that way. She just needed to ask for help and accept it.
Yeah. That's hard. Listen, all right. I will admit, I'm feeling a little called out, because
I see that in the chat.
I'm a single mom. I don't go over the top, but I really don't get much sleep. But I can't sleep. But one of the things that I did start doing, I do keep a little notepad by my bed, because I will have thoughts like, okay, I've got to do this tomorrow. Okay, I've got to do this tomorrow. Okay, I've got to. And this was I've done this for years now, and it really did help me whenever I started doing it, because it was one of those things that's just like, okay, I know you have to do that. Just write it down so you can stop thinking about having to do it. Like that is, it really is. There's something about getting it out of your brain and onto paper that you're like, okay, future me can worry about that. Current me needs to go to sleep.
Right. You don't have to just hold everything in your brain.
Yes.
You can't.
Yep.
Right. And my favorite example is like when you're playing cards and you need the 9 of spades, but you're afraid you're going to forget. So what do? 9 of spades, 9 of spades, 9 of spades, 9 of spades. Don't forget, 9 of spades, 9 of spades, 9 of spades. Right.
Yep.
Right. You don't have to do that with everything.
Yeah.
Just write it down and then you won't forget. And boy, there are a plethora of apps to choose from that could help you with that.
Yep.
And if anybody wants recommendations, just email me or text me.
There you go. There you go.
Discord, right? Because I have plenty of opinions about apps.
If you have some good ones, you're welcome to send me recommendations for them, and I'll post them on the website too, because
I mean, my favorite one right now is Note Plan 3. If you're a person who's doing more than one thing at a time, which who isn't, you have a bunch of lists. I have a list for this. I have a list for that. Oh my God, I have 40 lists. Fuck. Right? So Note Plan is fantastic because it has your daily day tied to your calendar. Everything's together. There is a subscription. Notion is fantastic. It's Notion.io.
Okay.
And they just are releasing an AI version where you can say, I need to write a paragraph about such. And then it writes the paragraph for you.
Oh, that's great.
Oh my gosh, my website is about to be so there's an app called Tot, T-O-T. Do you need to write something down really quick that you're going to post late, like paste and copy later, or writing versions of something? It lets you do that, and it's really small, and it stays on your desktop. Oh, by the way, I use all Macs all the time.
Gotcha.
No PC stuff can't help you. There's also Evernote, which is fantastic, unless you want to be able to export the document, and then it's no go, right? Those are my main ones. And have like a good 0 email inbox system. Right now, I'm using Airmail. It's my favorite one. I've used all of them. I'm a big fan of efficiency. Using the Do Not Disturb on your computer and your iPhone. There's this thing called the Pomodoro timer, and there's a whole bunch of them every app store where it makes everything go quiet while you focus on one thing for whatever a specified amount of time. Those are extraordinarily helpful.
Yeah. I do love using like the Do Not Disturb. I actually just recently set a bedtime on my phone. I never stick to the bedtime. However, it turns my phone screen to black and white so that I can't like pull up TikTok in the middle of the night because I'm not going to have color, that kind of thing. So, and then I put timers on all of my apps that I was spending a lot of time on. So I have 1 hour every day for TikTok and that's it. I have 1 hour for Reddit every day and that's it. And it has really been very, very impactful for me, at least.
I will tell you.
Using things like, well, and also when you're working, if you're working from home like I do, I close my email completely for an hour at a time, and then I'll open it up again so I don't get the notifications on the bottom of the screen. I'm not checking my email. Everybody knows if you need me immediately, you need to Teams message me instead. So I'll check, like I set aside some time. I'll check my email for 30 minutes, and then I go back to doing something else. That was game changing for work for sure when I started doing that. That was great.
You should only So what you're actually talking about is called time blocking, where you put in your schedule, which I was doing this when I was like 12. Right? I had a planner when I was 12, whatever. So especially when I was stressed, it was super stressful. It's probably the most stressful most people will do if they do gratitude. Holy crap, I die. Right? There's so much to remember. And oh, do you have an internship? Oh, do you have a job too? Oh, and a family? Fuck yourself. Right? So you need things to seamlessly as possible while also remembering to take care of yourself, right? Schedule bedtime. We keep appointments. Schedule fun time. I'm going to play with beads from 3 to 5 on Tuesday. I'm going to watch this movie on this date at this time in the schedule, right? It's one of the things I love about Note Plan is that putting those things in your schedule, write them in your notes, they show up in your schedule too. Oh my God, it's great. There's an organizational system called PARA, P-A-R-A. It's projects, areas, resources, archive. All your stuff should fit in one of those 4 categories. It's changed my life. I check things off my list all the time.
I love it.
Amazing. I will also say that for bedtime, there's an app called Better Sleep. And if you feel like paying for it, super fantastic. But if you don't have to because it has enough free stuff to make it worthwhile. But it lets you make your own mixes of meditation music. It has
great.
a bunch of stories and meditation, this and that for if you pay, and there's more, right? And you can set your bedtime alarm. It'll say, hey, you can tie it to your health app, right? And have your sleep being recorded and showing up in your HealthMate app as well. Also, the Apple and the Androids both have sleep apps that are great.
Yeah.
Recording your sleep and super important for mental health, mama, is sleep. I mean, you got to get sleep. If you don't sleep, you'll go nuts. It'll make you gain weight. It will make you have a heart attack. It will make you stupid. It will make you ineffective. It will make you crash your and just make poor choices. And it's really bad for your health. I know, girl. Sleep when I'm dead. No, if you don't, you will be dead and you won't get to do anything. It's hard. But social workers have this. I'll do one more thing. Social workers don't eat lunch.
There's always one more thing. Always. There's always one more thing. That's how my brain is.
Yeah, we don't eat lunch or go to the bathroom because I'm going to just one more thing. Oh, wait, it's 10:30. Crap.
Yep.
Crap. Oh, it's 12:30. A lot of people say, keep your phone somewhere else. If you can do that, great. If you can't, okay, it's okay because you can record your sleep. And that's super important. It shows you how you're sleeping. And if you're tired, even though you get enough sleep, well, you can figure out why. There are 100 different disorders. 100. Most people could name 2. Right? Insomnia and narcolepsy. That's all anyone knows.
Yep.
There are 100. Right? So if your sleep looks fucked up, go to the doctor.
Yeah.
If something feels bad, your body is telling you it needs help. Go to the doctor. Right? Another app that I use, because my brain, even if I wrote everything down, it'll just move a little bit. So I play classic. The Bejeweled Classic has a Zen mode. It has a breathing regulator. It gives affirmations and lets you play the ocean sounds, whatever meditation sound you while you're playing Zen version, where you're just matching.
I love that.
Don't run out of time. Matching. Oh, you're sleeping.
That's awesome.
It's great because it's mindless and mindful at the same time.
Yep.
Right? Because when we do mindless tasks, what happens to our brain? We wander around and freak out about stuff. right? We want to try not to do that. We want to stay where we are while we're doing it and not worry about the other stuff. If you're afraid you're going to forget, write it down. Pick one place to put everything that you're writing down, right? Have a notebook. A lot of guys carry tiny notebooks. Men have notebooks. Little journals, little Moleskines, whatever, that you have all the time, right? So that you can always get it down and recall it later, right? So there are a number of apps. Fantastical is a calendar app. You can subscribe to as well. It's not very expensive. Also, it integrates with the other apps. So I can sometimes send an email to my calendar. It has a feature called openings. So say you want to have a meeting with me. Oh, here's my opening link. And you just pick the one you want.
Oh, I like that.
Oh, it's so great. And if you're like with the Note Plan app, if I'm taking notes on this and then I want to call later, what was that? Oh, I go back to this day. Right? Organization. So,
yeah.
Right? Organization and empathy for yourself, and try not to get mad. Breathe.
Absolutely.
Like whatever you need to do to take actual care of yourself is what you should be doing before you're worrying about anything else. Anything. Because if you're not eating or sleeping or talking to other humans, you're not going to be okay. At the very least, you're going to be sad.
Right. Yeah.
I'm fine. I don't need anybody.
Yeah.
Sure you do.
Well,
Why are you there for
that? Yeah, no kidding. So we have I guess it's like a ritual in our Discord where we have every morning those who want to participate, but you type in a letter that represents how your morning is going or how you're feeling that morning. And there's a different scale for it, like a big M with an exclamation point means you're feeling great. And the tiny M that's stricken out with a little italicized means you're feeling really, really shitty. And so most mornings, I type in how I'm feeling and everything. And it's just like a quick check-in, really easy. And then Alpha actually noticed a few weeks ago, hey, your M's have been getting bigger lately. I'm really happy to see that. And I'm like, you know what? I took time off work. I took a week off when I didn't have to. I actually slept in every day that I was off. And it made me feel a lot better. And just that rest from work, like that someone else noticed just from that, like that made me realize how impactful just taking care of yourself and just getting that rest. If you can't get rest while you're working and everything, take the time when you can, because it really is important. It really does make a difference. Like even just a week off, not to go on vacation or anything, just to have a week off. It really is important if you can get the time to take it.
Well, all the people who are working remotely, one thing that we all lost, which we thought was good, was our commutes.
Yeah.
But little did we realize the commute home was very helpful.
Yep. It's that brain time. We listened to
podcasts and did things to entertain ourselves and unwind from our hard day. So that when we walk in the house, hey, everybody, how's it going? But if your office is your house, what do you want? Right?
Yep. You never escape work.
You should take the headphones off, get your dog and go for a walk. Get yourself and go for a walk. Do something for the amount of time that you're commuting. So if there wasn't one, walk around for 20 minutes and something. But at the same time, every day. Yep. Whenever you finish work, go do that.
Yeah.
Right?
And then don't sit down and work some more.
No. Damn it, no. No. When work is over, it's over.
Yeah, it really is hard.
Unless you're a doctor or some kind of certain kind of social worker, fuck off, quit it.
Yep,
not that
absolutely.
Important.
Absolutely.
Right? We're not as important as we think we are.
Yeah. They can do it without you. They really can.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And if they can't, then you need a raise and you need to consider asking for one.
Yep. Self-care. You have to make sure that the people around you also value you and care for you. One of my early lessons from my dad, if they don't appreciate you and treat you as such, then you have to go. Oh, because social workers will take it.
Yeah.
We're getting our ass handed to us physically, like getting pitched across the room for $11.20. No, man. No.
Well, it is time for our magic moment. So I have this magic wand here. If you could eliminate, by waving this magic wand, one common opinion or misconception or theory surrounding mental illness or disabilities or talking about mental health, what would it be? And I'll just give this little wave and give you the power.
That we can do everything ourselves. We cannot. I want everybody to know you can't, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yep.
Nobody can do it on their own. No one's perfect. Perfect isn't real. If you're striving for perfection, you're going to drive yourself crazy.
That's true.
It's not real.
Well, and that kind of goes back to what you said earlier. If everybody could communicate what they're feeling and what they need, because then you would get it. So if you can communicate that, then you won't be doing things alone.
Right. I would say that the mantra for most of my clients is, there's a song, ready? You're the only one that matters. You're the only one that matters. And when the client starts to, but you're the only one that matters. You're the only one that matters. Be your own best friend. Empathy for self. Empathy for self. And your children. If they're doing something you don't understand, ask them a question. Why are you doing that? Please. How do you feel? Really, the key to life is, how do you feel and what do you need? Right? Breathe. Are you dying? No. Is anyone going to die? No. Okay. So how bad can it be?
Yeah.
Always think about everything you've already accomplished. Right? Women who've had children, person grew in your body and came out. A very small opening. You can do anything. You could do anything. Oh, did you go to college? Did you go to graduate school? You can do anything. Especially if you went to graduate school. Oh my God.
Yeah.
You could do anything. If you're an engineer, you can do anything. If you're a walking, talking adult, you could do anything. And you're not going to die. And you're not out of time. You don't have to hurry. Stay where you are. Enjoy it. And you don't need a picture of it.
Yeah.
40. Have fun. And take care of yourself.
Absolutely. Gonna get a perfect isn't real tattoo. It would have to be misspelled or something, though. Like they forget the apostrophe and isn't, or they spell real REEL.
Yeah. Nothing lasts forever.
Yep.
Not a single thing. Not a single thing.
That's true.
Right? So whatever it is going to pass. It's going to be okay. Just remember, it's going to be okay. And if it isn't, it mostly will be. And if it isn't, ask for help and accept it.
Ask for help and accept it. That's a hard thing sometimes to do, but ask for help and accept it. Absolutely. I'm going to try to do that more. Maybe.
Yeah, that's the billboard I'm going to get.
Yep.
And when you're mad, you have no IQ. Dumb.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, it's true. It's very true.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to open it up to any remaining community Q&A. If there's anything that anybody wants to ask, please go ahead and just put it into the chat, and we'll make sure to ask it here. And then, Heather, I'll open it up to you. If there's anything we didn't talk about, resources you want to throw out there, or personal recommendations, I'll just give the floor to you.
Well, I think I gave you the big ones. The Daniel Siegel, Google search him. His YouTube videos are incredibly helpful. If you're a human or a parent human, or an adolescent human, he's fantastic. He's one of those people who's so smart. He doesn't really understand how much smarter he is than everyone. But he really is. So some of he talks a little bit up here sometimes. Don't be intimidated. Just do your best. The Wheel of Awareness is an incredible meditation. I have another book, The Book of Joy. It is conversations between the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu before he died. They were old friends, and they were, I think, on a book tour or some sort of speaking tour. And the author was recording and, narrating, I guess. It's incredible. It's so, because they're both such beautiful people, mostly. And I mean, he's a little misogynist. But the messages are clear. And at the end, it has the meditations they use, which is also fantastic. I have comedy specials to recommend. Listen, if you don't feel good, if you're bummed out, puppies, kitties, baby goats in pajamas, baby goats in pajamas, or baby goats in pajamas, dog, or babies. Oh my gosh.
Yes. Yep.
But the comedy specials, if you like jokes and you like laughing and you don't feel good, find somebody who will make you laugh. So my favorite comedian is Neil Brennan, Neal Brennan. The first special that I recommend is his second one, 3 mics, M-I-C microphone. 3 microphones. One's for stand-up, one's for one-liners, and one's for deep emotional shit. And here's the trailer. He's the youngest of 10 of an Irish Catholic alcoholic. If you had any experience anywhere near any of those categories, must watch that special. If you feel bad about yourself and your relationship with your parents, watch that special. Then watch his most recent special, Blocks. And it's about the things in our lives that block us up, whether it's culture or politics or whatever. There's a tiny person.
Are you going to bed? Your watch, you mean?
Yeah.
It goes off. It beeps every hour?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Leave it with me, and I will, I'll look at the instructions and everything and see if I can make the beep stop. Okay? Good night, my angel. I love you. He got a new watch for Christmas. And apparently it beeps every hour.
So that's so annoying. So the newest special is called Blocks. And like I said, it's about our emotional blocks. And since the special, he has made it into a podcast to talk to other people about their blocks. First guest, David Letterman.
Hey!
So great. So great. So Neil Brennan is a comedian, but he's also a comedy writer. He's the co-creator of The Chappelle Show.
Oh,
He
okay.
is one of the funniest people alive. He's super underrated. No one really understands who he is. But as I mentioned, youngest of 10, Irish Catholic, alcoholic father, right? So there's a specific set of issues that just accompany that. And the main one is depression. Really, really depressed. And if that's your family, if that's who you come from, you came from depression. So it's yours plus theirs.
Yeah.
Plus whatever the beating or whatever it is, right? Whatever the abuse is, right? And his is complex and it is deep and it is wide. And he's been struggling with it his whole life. And that's what these last 2 specials are kind of about. It's his depression and all the things he's done to try to feel better. I will say, he's a big fan of ayahuasca. Just saying. It really seems to have helped a lot of people recently.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said for psychedelic assisted therapy. That's another topic. But he talks a lot about self-worth and how he sees himself and how others see him. And it's so beautiful and touching and relatable.
There's a show, whenever psychedelics come up, I almost always recommend this show called Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if it's still on Hulu.
I thought it was on Netflix.
It might be on Netflix now. It used to be on Hulu. I don't know where it is now. But if you
probably find it on YouTube.
Yep. Yeah. I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere. But Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia, he goes through all kinds of different psychedelics and everything and the benefits of them.
Well, I have a website for you. It's MAPS. It's the Association for Psychedelic Studies. What is the M for? Okay. It's MAPPS.org. Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies.
Okay.
.org.
Gotcha.
And I used to know that guy. His name is Rick Dowlin, and he's been working on this 30 years.
All right. There we go. There's that website too. Well, Bite Mark said, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. Very entertaining. I learned a lot, how to have a lot of new tools for the tool chest. Absolutely. Yes. And thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. This has been a great conversation.
I hope that this conversation with Heather on emotional struggles in adult survivors of childhood abuse has provided valuable insights and helps you feel a little supported. Healing from childhood abuse is a courageous journey, and every survivor deserves compassion, understanding, and the right therapeutic support. I so appreciate Heather joining me today and sharing her expertise, and I also just appreciate her dedication to helping survivors find strength and healing. To our listeners, thank you for joining us on this important exploration of resilience and transformation. If you have any comments or feedback, I would love to hear from you, so feel free to share your thoughts and experiences with me on social media or through the website, tacosfallapart.org. And if you found this episode helpful, please consider leaving a review or rating on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps us reach more people. If you or someone you know is a survivor of childhood abuse, know that you are not alone and support is available. Reach out to qualified professionals and resources to embark on your own journey of healing and growth. And if you don't even know where to start, definitely visit tacosfallapart.org. There's a whole bunch of resources and a lot of online therapist finders and that kind of thing that can help you. Thank you for tuning in to Even Tacos Fall Apart. Remember, even in the face of the most difficult experiences, healing and resilience can lead us to a place of strength, hope, and renewal. Until next time, take care of yourself and those around you, and never forget the power of compassion and understanding on the path to healing.